Hello. Welcome back to GG Inspire, Be Inspired. I am beyond over the moon excited for our guest today, Mr. Chris Felton. He's like an enigma for me.
Oh my God.
He is
You you
because
need you need better enigmas. I can barely say that word, let
I
alone
have,
be I can barely say that word, let alone be one, sister. So
you know,
anyway.
I have a couple enigmas in my life, but you're one of them because, you never judge a book by its cover, and looks could be deceiving because, my mom actually first saw Chris speak years and years ago,
Yeah.
and she was like, he looks like an accountant. But then when he opens his mouth, he's super deep and enlightened, and it just throws your mind off, and you don't know what to think. So,
Now I'm an old white guy.
oh
That's
man.
that's a recovered accountant. So it's really a mess now.
Yeah,
So
you know what? But I really appreciate who you are, and you really have over the years, I've kind of seeked your counsel and talked to you, and you've mentored me, and kind of made me look at things from a different perspective, and I so appreciate you. So I'm so excited to be able to help you as you're launching into a newer field. Although this is your second book,
correct.
but it's this is a really big deal. I remember we were talking last year about it. We were at an event in Las Vegas, and you said, and I said, "Oh, this is your second book." He's like, "Yeah, but this is like a real book now. This is like the real thing." But I loved your first one, so
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Well, my wife really wrote that, right? So she had it was called Couples Money. So she had to
yeah,
slap my name on it just because that would have been weird. So really, she gets all the credit for that one. So this is really the first one I wrote. So anyway,
I'm excited. I'm excited. I swear, uh, a few years back, we ran into you in the hallway at an event, and I swear Marlo must have been thinking that I was a groupie or something. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, just yeah, like act like you've been there, act like you've been there before." Anyway, anyway, so
you're
okay,
awesome.
so I want to read a testimonial from Steve Siebold because I know that you were working really closely with him when you were writing this book. And for those of you that don't know, you're like probably under a rock if you haven't heard of Steve Siebold, but he wrote 177 mental toughness secrets to the world class. He wrote How Rich People Think. He has interviewed and spent time with professional celebrities, all just world class people, very successful people, and he founded Mental Toughness University. And I want to read really quick what he said about your book. So, this is a tremendous new book by millionaire entrepreneur Chris Felton. It's the most honest success book I've read in 40 years. Felton doesn't waste words bragging about his wealth or showing you pictures of his private jet or Rolls Royce. I've known this man for 20 years, and he's the real deal. This book is based on the author's heartaches, struggles, personal, professional failures, and eventual success. If you're going to read one personal development book this year, this is the one we're recommending to our 16,000 members of the International Personal Development Association. Wow. Well, that's a going endorsement.
Yeah, humbling to say the least. He put that down Saturday, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Right? Because
Yeah.
when you write something, you're like, "Is it any good?" Right? Like
Yeah.
you don't know, right? And
Yeah.
it's a risk to put stuff out there. I'm sure there's some people who aren't going to like it, and but Steve sold 3.5 million books, and he's been a seven-figure speaker forever. There's probably 30 or 40 guys in the world, and yeah, just have mad respect for him. And he was my coach on the book that just made sure that the writing was tight and it flowed and it was super impactful. And so for him to say something like that, and Steve doesn't blow smoke, and
No.
he doesn't endorse stuff that he doesn't fully believe in. But yeah, that I almost passed out when when he posted that on Facebook, and he went over to LinkedIn and posted it too. So it was tremendous.
Well, I was blown away, and I just thought, wow, what an incredible like positive show of what this book is going to be able to do for millions of people out there. And so I'm excited to be able to kind of dive in a little
Sure,
bit deeper
let's do
to
it.
it. There's so many. I always think that you are really great at the zingers, like the things that I'm like, Oh gosh, that's so good. I have to remember that. I got to repeat it over and over in my mind. You said one was um, obstacles are no match for an emotionally fueled mind, and I thought, yeah, that's very true. When you're emotionally charged and focused on something, nothing can stop you like a freight train, right? And it seems like that's how you've been in this space, continuing to be hungry and grow and get better. So I have a couple things that I want to talk to you about, a couple
Sure.
questions for you. So, you know, I find that in day-to-day life, I think the average person really has this need to kind of blame other
Sure.
situations, that, and you call it the downward spiral of blame, right? I thought of the economy, your spouse, the city or state that you live in, your time, your stress, your money, your parents, like all these things. I was like, oh, I have a long blame list too. So how do you, when you talk about that, how do you stop that blame spiral?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just it's called victim, and people take offense to that word, but basically, victim just means I'm blaming outside circumstances for my results, and and it's easy to do. I mean, it's just easy to do more so than ever, and
Yeah.
with social media and the political. I mean, it's just there's always, it's always that way, and so a couple things is one is there's always one finger pointing out and three fingers pointing back, and projection is a real thing, and you will find things in other people that you don't like about yourself.
Mm,
And I think I used the quote in the book. The world is a mirror, and it gives you feedback for what you're putting out.
mm-hmm.
And so for me, and it's easy to do it, right? And let's just preface this real quick as I'm talking. Like, I'm pretty clear in the introduction. I have not arrived. I am not a guru. I don't have it all figured out. One of my favorite quotes from my friend Jonathan Mansky, I use multiple times in the book.
Yep.
I'm a miracle and a mess at the same time. And so, so I make more mistakes before 9 a.m. than most people make all day. Like, I mean, I'm a freaking human,
Yep.
and that's it. But what makes me different than most is I'm committed to becoming aware of how I screw myself over. And it's called getting out of your own way. And so one of the ways we do that is we want to look outside. We want to blame. But when I'm projecting onto somebody, I'm like, I don't like them because they do that. Usually that means there's a hole in my bucket
Right.
that needs to be tended to.
Right.
And so for me, and it's not that I don't do that, right? I do, but I understand how destructive it is. And and it's a chapter in my book called Judgment. I mean, judgment is public enemy number one, man. We spent a whole show on that. Judging others, judging myself. And so when I get into judgment, because I do it, I have to catch it. And, I usually go to a scripture, or I'll go to,
Yeah.
I'll go to an affirmation, because I got to interrupt that.
Yes.
So the blame game, the victimhood, all that. And then at the end of the day, whether you want to listen to me or not, you just got to ask yourself the question, based on results, how's that working? And if you like your results, keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
If you don't, and I was, and that was my turning point in my life, is wherever I've had a problem, I've always been there. And so blaming my ex-wife, blaming Marlo, blaming the economy, blaming the Great Recession at that time, I didn't like the results. So what changed my life was, I'm like, I have to take 100% responsibility for my results. And we pivoted, and thank God I did, because I was going to lose big, because I really connected, sister, I really connected to price that others were paying for me being a freaking victim. And it
That
wasn't
was
working.
so huge. When I read that, I really had to stop and think, who is paying the price for me deciding that it's not my fault, you know? And then then I had to put the book down and kind of swirl that around and really think about it. And I was like, holy crap, I'm really, this is really affecting everything. that taking 100% responsibility. For years, I've always said to my husband, as you and I have talked over the years and really trying to take on more of the responsibility of what's going on. And he was like, but that's not your fault. But that's not your fault. I said, but it doesn't matter. I have to take the steps to be able to improve myself. Otherwise, I could just stand back and blame everyone, So that's absolutely huge. It's funny that you mention the quote "miracle and a mess" at the same time, because that was the next thing I was going to ask. That belief that you're not good enough. It's kind of a spiral, right? You said it like
Sure.
The belief that you're not good enough, that feeling, and then it creates that belief, and then you're judging yourself, and you're attracting situations to prove it. And maybe this is a slant on this question: can one exist without the other? Can we be a miracle without the mess?
I mean, without the mess, I don't know, because I mean, we're freaking human, and it's, we did not come to this planet to get perfect.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we came to this planet as like perfect little babies that loved and felt like we deserved to be loved. And we felt like, change my diaper, feed me, like, and then, we at some point are told, hey, you're a bad girl, bad boy, you're this, you're that, you're not this, you're not that. And we start taking all this programming on. And, and so when we're constantly fixing ourselves, my mentor said, dude, you're not broken. Like,
yep.
You got some messy parts of you, but when you get to the point where, you fully love yourself 100%. And sometimes, people hear that and they're like, that's gooey or whatever you want to call it. Well, it's just true, right? I mean, me beating myself up, me going, well, God, you're imperfect. You're this, you're that. I mean, perfectionism is just a form of self-sabotage, right? And it's kind of what the book's all about, is how do you self-sabotage? How do you screw yourself over? And so finally I was just like, I got some messy parts of me, and it's a problem, not a project. And so, I still have messy parts of me, but at some point I said, dude, you're a good cat. Like you got yes. God's given you some gifts and you got some talents, and you need to develop those. And you need to work on these projects of releasing this and releasing judgment and forgiving and, all the stuff I talk about in the book. And then, heal yourself over there from your divorce and the fact that your kids lived on the other side of the country, like almost their entire lives. You created the mess. So it was just like, I'm a miracle in a mess, and I'm still a miracle in a mess, but I've grown a lot and I've gotten better, and I'm going to continue to get better. But once I accepted the messy parts and say, I'm going to work on it, but like, I'm not going to make myself freaking miserable. Because I think I used the quote several times in the book. There's no happy ending to an unhappy journey. There's not.
Yeah.
So when am I going to love myself, now or when I fix that? Crap, that's endless. So I started just embracing me, loving me, and then I started getting more people to love me. And I was able to just, create more value in people's lives. And anyway, whatever, I can go around and around on that forever, but it's such a huge concept. And once again, that's Jonathan Mansky, local coach. I mean, he was the guy that he was the king of zingers. I call him Yoda. But he always, would say stuff, and I'm like, gosh, dang, it's so good. So I borrowed that one.
It's so good though. I think that, I know that you've had coaching for many, many years, and it's really, improved how you look at yourself and how you take things on, how you take on projects. But I hope that people are getting the idea that you have to love yourself for who you are now. And then, yes, you can go to work on the projects or things about yourself that you want to improve or that you maybe don't like, but you have to love who you are now before you can do all these things. And I think that's so important. And I think a lot of people miss, because we're in this information overload time, it's the information age. Even like, we got AI, we got all these things that are coming at us constantly. And it's like, oh, I have to get better at this. I have to get better at this. I have to get better at this. And you forget to appreciate the what you do bring to the table in the beginning, So I think you talk about drawing a line in the sand, and how our subconscious and our conscious mind are battling each other, wanting one thing, but taking actions in direct conflict. And I completely resonated with this because I thought, New Year's resolutions, like that Monday morning mentality where you're going to like, okay, now I'm going to, I'm going to go to the grocery store and buy all good food and I'm going to work out. And then Monday morning comes, you're like, I'm tired. I think I'm not going to do that, and I think a lot of people suffer with that. So do you think that the deserving issue is the most common reason why people want more but maybe don't succeed?
Yeah. I think. Do you want me to talk on deserving? Because
I would love it.
That's a big topic. Yeah, I mean, and it kind of goes back to that. We show up as perfect little babies, and then we don't have deserving problems, and then at some point we're told something, and we buy a story, and it's usually a less than. I mean, I got plenty of those messages. Chris, you're not that smart. You're not, from an athlete, you're kind of slow. And you can't really defend yourself because you don't know how to reject that stuff.
Right.
So everybody pretty much, unless the parents were really super self-aware and built your identity, at some point, from a teacher or just, parents can't protect you forever.
Yeah.
But you were basically at some point told you weren't good enough. And then, you made some mistakes, you sinned, whatever you want to call it. Right. And then you're a sinner, or you're bad, or you're this. And then you're like, well, since I'm bad or I'm not good enough, then I don't really deserve to have an amazing life.
Right.
And it's a man-made mind virus. It's totally freaking ridiculous because, during the pandemic, during great recessions, all the stuff I've been doing, as an entrepreneur for the last 24 years, during the Great Recession of 2008, like the grass still grew, like trees still, budded. Flowers still, like nature doesn't have a deserving problem. Right?
Yeah.
It's not. There's no recessions in nature. There's just none of that garbage. So as I started studying it, right, and once again, it was a project, not a problem for me. I'm like, I got some deserving stuff. So instead of like going, oh my God, Gillian, there's that deserving thing. Oh, there it is again. Oh, shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Instead of like making it this insurmountable thing, I'm like, I got a deserving challenge. I got a deserving project. So I just got really curious about it and I started studying it. And I was just like, oh my Lord, it's a total freaking lie. It's a lie. It's a lie that's perpetuated. And so once I recognized it as a lie, and it would pop up and be like, you don't deserve it. You're blah, 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 whatever that, that little voice we have in our head.
Me monster.
Yeah. The me monster. Right. That's right. All that stuff. Instead of like arguing with that voice, fighting against it, doing oh no, there it is again. I can't get rid of it. Like, I would just smile, chuckle, and I'd revert to a scripture. I would revert to an affirmation. I would redirect the thought, and this takes work, but it's worth it. And then eventually at some point when you don't pay attention to, falls away, atrophies. I don't know how long it took. I don't know when it happened, but at some point it just fell away. And I don't have it anymore. It might come in again at some point, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God. Like, it's just, like the deserving lie. It's a lie I tell myself. So why would I take a lie I tell myself so freaking seriously? I don't.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful. And it really, I know that you are very active in your affirmations and meditation. And I think that it's a practice that a lot of times, and I wasn't going to ask you about this, but I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do that. oh, it's too hard for me. Even my daughter, my 8-year-old, I'm trying to get her to have more calming times, and we do yoga and things like that. And she's like, my mind races. She tells me when she goes to sleep, my mind races. And I said, it's something that you have to practice. It's not going to be easy the first time. So, I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, how you've kind of moved yourself into a more spiritual place and calm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a massive goal. I wanted to have a peaceful mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think we come in this planet, we just want to be at peace,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And chaotic thinking, chaotic results, right? And so I bought the fact that I could control my thinking. I'm not perfect. I don't have it all figured out, but my mind's pretty peaceful. Because I'm like that. I mean, I could have all the stuff on the planet. I could have a thriving business. I could have, stuff. But if I have a chaotic mind and I'm trying to find peace outside and stuff, like often fed, never satisfied. I mean, that is a bottomless pit, and people try to do that.
Yeah.
Once I have that, then this whole outside in approach, and so I had to buy in that if I want to have a peaceful life, it starts with peaceful thinking. And so, it wasn't like some optional thing, right? Like it was a desire
Yeah.
to have that, and I still work on it. And so, yeah, I mean, and so people are like, I don't have time, I don't have that. That's more of chaotic thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is your ego, which stands for edging God out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wants you to be right where you are. It does not want you to grow. It doesn't want you to develop. And what you guys need to understand is that, I mean, the only way you're going to have fulfillment in your life is by growing yourself and serving others. And that's, and that's why, that's why I wrote the book. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't a money thing. I mean, I hope it's wildly successful and, good things happen over there. I'm not expecting it, but I had to grow myself to do it. And I wanted to contribute to people's lives and make an impact and live on forever and be a legacy thing and all that. So having a peaceful mind and growing your thinking, it's not optional, because you're
Yeah.
you're either growing or you're dying. And so this addiction of the masses to be comfortable, right? And I start the book off in the introduction. A life spent seeking comfort
Mm.
results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. It's one of my most favorite quotes from Jeff Shore, unbelievable author. A life spent seeking comfort results in an entirely uncomfortable existence. And so if you are not intentional about growing you are seeking comfort. There's no comfort in nature. The tree's either growing or it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't intentional about growing and getting better, you're status quo, which means you're actually in decay. So when people are like, I don't have time, I don't have that, no, man, that's an excuse. That's your ego. And if that's working for you and you like the
Right.
results,
Right.
keep doing it. But I didn't like the results and I want to grow. So that's why I have a morning routine. And if you spend
Wow.
30 minutes a day working on you, it's 4.5 working weeks over a year. And over a decade, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
A whole year. So you got to have growth time. You got to have intentional growth time. And, and the whole gist of my book, sister, is, you got to humble down, right? You got to be willing to change. You got to be willing to change.
Yeah.
And you must do the work, but the work is going to be worth it.
And the work's not comfortable. It never is.
Absolutely.
That's, the premise of you, as I think about you, as somebody who is always working to grow and get better and serve others. So I'm not surprised that is your full intention with this book, but it's not supposed to be comfortable. And I came to that realization years ago, like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. This is so hard. This is so hard. Wait, it's not supposed to be easy or comfortable or effortless. It's supposed to be worth it. Do you know what I mean? It's supposed to be worth it. So, I want to ask you another question. So I want to talk about what if up. Okay. Because when you said this, I heard you mention this a few years ago and it absolutely blew me away. And I loved seeing it in your book. You know, it's such a great story. Can you share it? Because I know people watching can immediately implement this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the gist is that, the bottoming out was we were $250,000 in credit card debt. We're in the Great Recession. I'm a financial services entrepreneur. We're leaking thousands of dollars every month. Marlo realizes it. We had the blowout of all blowouts, and I'm like, I got to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was the whole thing. I'm like, I have to humble down. My way is not working too well based on results. Right. And I got to change. I got to do some work. So, so I went all in on my personal growth and development like an Olympic athlete would their sport.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's the whole, am I interested? Am I committed? Most people are interested in success. They're not committed. There's two totally different things there. But I went all in. I was committed. And so I was looking for answers and still executing my plan in my business every day. I wasn't waiting to fix myself. Then I was going to go after it. Right. I had to work on myself every single day, set that aside, execute my plan, whether I was ready or not. Sometimes people screw that up. Once I'm fixed, then nope, total mistake. Work on yourself a little bit every day, execute your plan. Anyway, so I mentioned Jonathan Mansky. He calls himself the world's only cerebral sanitation engineer. And I mean, the dude's like freaking Yoda, right? And so I pay him $375 I don't have for like a 90-minute session.
Right.
And the whole goal was I had to double our income. Right? We had decent income, but the mess I'd created, like just to get back to square one, we had to double. So it was like, base camp looking up Mount Everest. It was a big goal. But I'm like, it was a must. It wasn't a should, it was a must. So I hired Jonathan and like, we're going through, like what I need to do. And I would, he'd ask me a question, I'd answer. And then he would like, like he'd sit there, like meditate on my answers. And I'm like, this guy's a freak. Right. And because I'm a left brain recovered CPA. Right. And, but I'm like, dude, your way's not working. Be open, stay coachable. So we get to the end of 90 minutes and he's like, so you want to double your income? You want to make this amount of money? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. So what you need to do is you just need to say, what if I make that amount? And say it like thousands of times a day. Say it in the car, say it going to the bathroom. Just say, what if I cash flow this? What if I cash flow this? What if I just say repetitively? And I'm like, I mean, my jaw's like, and what else? He's like, no, that's it. Just say what if.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude's a freaking fraud. Like, I just paid you $375 for that, right? Because we're looking for the complex answer.
Yeah.
Right? For like being a CPA. If it's not complex, it must not be legit. It's ridiculous, right? And so, so the simple answer, and he's like, dude, it's so simple, you probably won't even do it. I was like, all right, what do I have to lose? Because my back was against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what if? And the gist is that kind of the deeper teaching on that is, conscious, subconscious. When you start saying, I'm a billionaire, right? Your subconscious is like, no, you're not. You're this. You're that. Right. So your subconscious fights what you affirm sometimes. But when you say, what if, your subconscious can't fight that because it's a question. Right?
Okay.
And so what if I'm financially independent? What if our net worth is this? Because really, I mean, my focus was I had to clean up my money beliefs and programming because they were trash based on results.
Right.
So I just what if. And what happens is eventually at some point, the subconscious accepts the idea. And when it does that, you're aligned. Your conscious and your I talk about in the book, right? Get aligned. Your conscious and your subconscious is in agreement, and you're a force of nature because you're totally aligned. Your conscious and your subconscious in agreement. You're connected to God, infinite intelligence. You are what's called an internal mastermind, and you're freaking on fire. You cannot be stopped. And so it takes work, whether it be imaging and visualization, some of the technologies I talk about in the book.
Yeah.
What if statement. I was like, I have to get the door open to my subconscious mind, so to speak, to accept an idea so that we can do that. And then it was, I don't know how long that took, but eventually I was like, boom, we nailed it. And then I won't tell the story here, but, be a spark. There's a guy in our company named Juan Nunez that, I think your mom was at the same SMD Academy where I taught that.
I think so.
I think that's where I met your mom.
Mm-hmm.
But Juan took it, and I won't share the story, but he tells the story, and he took his income from 50,000 to 250 in 9 months using What If, transformed his life.
Wow.
So it is powerful.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm just blown away. Just the idea of getting your conscious and your subconscious aligned. I think that so many people need it, but don't realize that they need it, that they're in constant battle with themselves, And my last question is about aging, because, you cover this in too young to be old, right? And I just turned 45, so thank you. Yeah. Okay. Still.
You're looking hot, woman.
Thank you. And I was kind of happy and mad at the same time, because I think I felt like, okay, now I'm a grown up. People won't look at me like I'm a kid anymore. But at the same time, I was like, ooh, but I want to be, can I have 10 or 15 years back? So what's up with our whacked view on aging? Tell me, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm 51. I turned 50 in August of 2021, and the same thing happened to me. And I realized, literally for the first time, sister, I'm like, I'm not getting out of this thing alive.
Right.
I mean, it sounds weird, right? But that was like really the first time I connected with my mortality. And I was getting a little depressed. And then I got this angel in my business. She actually helped with the book. And she'll just send me stuff every once in a while. She's on my team. And she's kind of engaged in the business, but she'll just send me stuff. And so she sent me this short article. I talk about, it's in the book, and it's this study on aging that basically says, you enter your prime when you turn 60. Mm-hmm. The most productive decade of your life is 60 to 70. Your second most productive is 70 to 80, and then your third is 50 to 60. And the average age of CEOs, 62, average age of pastors in the top 100 churches, 71, average age of popes, 76. And, you don't have kids, you care less about what people think about you. You're not trying to keep up the Jones. I mean, there's all these reasons why. And I read that and I was like, holy crap. I'm like, I'm not even yet to my prime.
Yeah.
And so I started sharing that in client meetings, and like their shoulders would pop back, and like everything, like it was nuts. And I was talking to one of my good friends. He's 55. He's a fund manager. He's a total stud. Unbelievable. Looks great, in great health. And I'm listening to him, and he starts sounding old. He's like, well, Chris, I don't know, how much time I have left, and I, because he doesn't want to do that forever.
Right.
And he's thinking about retirement. I'm like, dude, retirement is ridiculous. I'm like, dude, you're so skilled. And he's like, I don't know, it was just crazy. And I'm like, just shut up. I'm going to text this. I'm going to text this thing to you. Read it. And then he called me back. He's like, dude, holy crap. Really? So anyway, and I think you and I were at the same convention maybe, but we, so I was in Dallas. We're at a convention. It's like 1,500 people in the crowd, and most of them are over 50, probably 75% of the crew. Right. And so I get brought up on stage, and I wasn't even sure what we were going to talk about. I was on this panel, and I'm like, I got to share this. And so I read it off, but I started it, right? And I said, okay, everybody, how many people here are over the age of 50? And I heard like this, woo, right? I mean, I heard like 2 people.
Right.
I'm like, they're embarrassed because they're over 50. Then I read the study. Everyone goes nuts. We're in the reception afterwards. I don't know. I had hundreds of people coming up to me, text that to me, send that study to me, send it. And then the next day, Sharon Lecter was one of the keynote speakers. She's Rich Dad, Poor Dad author. She's written dozens of books. I mean, she's a rock star. I'm assuming she's in her 70s, and she's still after it.
Yeah.
And she shares. She wasn't there the night I talked about it. She came in that day. Sister, she shares the same study.
Oh man.
On her PowerPoint, word for word. And I'm like, whoa, hand of God.
Awesome.
Hand of God, right?
Right.
And so she's like, how many of you in the crowd are over 50? And like everyone gets up and like screams.
Fired up.
She's like, I've never had that reaction before. And I was just like, OMG. That's why you got to trust your intuition on stuff.
That's so good.
Right? Because I went on stage to talk about, I don't know what we were supposed to talk about. But my intuitive insight was like, I was like, God, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? Repetitively asking that question. And he's like, got to share it because people have a whacked out image of aging and it's freaking ridiculous. So the best is yet to come. God's not done with you yet.
Whew, good. I'm happy about that. I've got a lot more work to do, you
and me both.
This is good. So, hey, so when is your official launch? Because I know you can pre-order the book, which I've pre-ordered a bunch.
Yeah.
When is it?
So we made a mistake. I'm grateful we made the mistake. So we started pre-launches February 1st, and we weren't going to have the orders ship until March 25th, but we made a mistake, and the orders are shipping February 28th.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah, I'm so grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the lady that's helping me with it, she's like, I don't know how to tell you this, and I was kind of like, flow like water, right? And I was like, there's a reason for that. So I'm super grateful that, in a couple of weeks they're going out. So yeah, ebook, paperback, hard copies. I'm going to do a Audible, probably spring, summer project, but we hit Amazon bestseller.
Already?
Yeah, we hit Amazon bestseller.
Awesome.
We were number 2 in Canada. And so yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, super excited about it. Yeah. So chrisfelton.me is the website, and
on Amazon. So February 28th is that official launch. I want to get it, and I want to give it to everyone in my family, as many people as I can in business, even some of my clients that I really feel like need that, because I feel like so many people, and me included, have beat themselves up for things that they're not doing, and not realizing that if you could take a step back and take an objective look at why you're doing these things and start to study yourself a little bit more. You got to live with yourself forever, right? As long as you're going to be
I've been going through some pretty amazing coaching with a group called Brand Builders Group. Anybody that's interested in launching their message, Rory Vaden's the founder of Brand Builders. He did my Let's Launch for his book. So world-class people. So I started working with them, and they're like, what's the one word problem you solve, Chris? And I was like, what? What's the one word problem you solve? And I was like, I don't know. They're like, well, you can't launch a book till you get that figured out. And that took a month. And it's super clear. The one word, stuck. That is the one word problem. Yeah. And then the compelling message is, you got to be willing to change. You got to do the work, but the work's going to be worth it. So that's the book. And it's, and I know we got to wrap up here, but as Steve was coaching me on this, you're right. Cause I mean, we spent 9 months on the first draft.
Wow.
9 months. He's like, Chris, it's going out there to the world.
Yeah.
We got to make sure it's really, really good. Steve spent 25 hours on the 4th draft.
Really?
He's like, this is really freaking good. He's like,
Is
I'm gonna polish it. And what's good about it is it's simple. The writing is tight.
yeah.
There's absolutely zero fluff. Zero
Yeah.
fluff, and it's actionable. And then Steve's like, what makes you different than all the books that he's written? And this was his idea. He's like, your personal stories. And so the personal stories are self-deprecating. They're very, very much. He's like, are you sure you want to share
Humbling.
that? Are you
Humbling.
sure you want to share all that? I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I just want to help people. And if I have to throw my dirty laundry out to the world to see, then if that's going to serve people, then let's do it. So I'm super proud of it. I'm super grateful that Steve was like, we need to slow down and we got to make sure this thing is impactful. So that's the feedback I'm getting.
It's
I hope it
awesome.
continues, and I really appreciate your help, sister. Love you so much. Thanks for helping me get the word out.
Anything that I can do, I so appreciate you. Honestly, you're so relatable. You're very candid. And when you have somebody who's willing to go that far to be able to make a difference in other people's lives, it truly inspires me. So I appreciate you, Chris, chrisfelton.me, and we'll see you. Be inspired, everybody. Take care.
All right. Thanks, sister.